and welcome to this ANSYS Space Claim tutorial on the Weld tool. If you haven't already, let's go ahead and open up the file. So you go to File, Open, browse to the directory you've downloaded it to, and it's the Weld Surfaces CAE. Now here we have a structural model, and something very common in a situation like this is to extract mid-surfaces or shells and sometimes beams to do a structural simulation, and we know that very often weld geometry is not actually modeled in CAD. In this case, we're going to be taking a look at mid-surfaces and shells. Now, you'll notice in the tree that we have these solids here, and we can see that these solids are mated up in a variety of different ways. We have some square tubing coming to some round tubing coming together over here, and a bracket going around the circular tubing here. We've already extracted the mid-surfaces. If you are not familiar with the mid-surface tool in the Prepare tab, we do have additional tutorials online. But here we've gone ahead and already extracted them. So I'm going to uncheck the solids component to hide them, and I'm going to check the mid-surface shells to show them. And what I want to do here is I want to look at the end. I'm going to select this edge here, and I'm going to use Plan View to go into a nice heads-on view. And I'm just going to right click on this shell in the back and hide it so I could clearly see what's going on here. Now I can see here that this shell here, this mid-surface, does not extend down and connect with this one. And, you know, maybe wondering, well, was this true at the solid level? If I show the solid here, notice that the square tubing is actually thinner than the round tubing. We could see that it comes down and intersects. There's even some room to actually weld it there. But these parts are of different thicknesses, and that's what results in these mid-surfaces not lining up. You'll see that if this tries to extend straight down, it's going to miss this mid-surface altogether. And to further show this, we have this tool called Extend. And what Extend does is it looks for surfaces that can be extended together. Here you can see that it is finding this edge here to be extended down. And when I go ahead and click it, I get an extension like this. But notice that it cannot do the rest of the model. That's because on the side and the front, when it extends out, it does not intersect with this surface. So this is one issue that we're going to run into. Let's take a look at some of the other areas it wants to extend. Here we have this flat plate going to this round or circular tube. And if we go ahead and click on this, notice that it wraps around that tube, and that's not really how it's going to be supported. There might be a weld in here, but that weld is going to stop right at the top. It's not actually going to come around and grip the tube this way. So here, we really can't use the Extend tool either because it's resulting in geometry that's not really true. So in a number of circumstances, Extend is a great way to get these different mid-surface and shell models to connect properly so we could have a conformal mesh inside of our analysis package like ANSYS, but here we could see that the Extend tool is not working as needed. Here, another situation where it wraps around. So I'm going to undo with Control Z a few times to get back to before making these changes. And what I'm going to do is turn on this new tool called Weld. Now, what Weld does is it highlights the model similar to the way the Extend tool works. Basically here we're running into these, it's highlighting these different intersections. And I also want to show that with Extend over here, it wasn't able to find it at all. And that's because we have the same situation where this mid-surface is bigger than this one, and it would extend infinitely past it. It never actually touches over there. So even though there's a partial connection here, it's not going to make a nice connection going all the way in that direction. So let's go back to this Weld tool and look at these different scenarios again, but now using Weld. So here we saw a second ago where this wrapped around the tube, giving us the geometry that we weren't looking for. Now let's see what happens when we use the Weld tool. So here it actually creates the weld geometry. It does not do that full wrap around like the Extend tool did. And it also created a new surface or new faces representing where that weld would be. Let's go ahead and see. Same thing over here. Nice clean connection actually representing where it would touch on the tube. And keep in mind, one other thing I forgot is that the way this weld is created, it creates a separate face from one edge on the surface to the face. So you'll see that there's one surface that gets created off of this edge, and then another that gets created off of this edge. So if it over creates and you don't want those faces there, you could always select them, hit delete, and simplify even further that weld geometry. So a couple others will do these over here. Very similar, makes that geometry, may wrap around a little bit representing where the weld geometry goes, but previously with extend, it wrapped almost all the way around 360. So great improvement in an area like that. Over here, you'll notice that it's highlighting the same area in the back, but not on the sides. And that's because it doesn't always find all the edges that may need to have a weld geometry created. So when it doesn't find it automatically, there's an option to be able to select the edges that you want to do. So let's go ahead and go to that tool guide. And here I'm just going to double click on this edge. And so after selecting the loop of edges, before clicking the check mark, we just need to use the Select Target Faces tool guide to pick the face that the weld is going to be created to. We'll go ahead and hit the check mark. And now I'm just going to click in white space to clear the selection and zoom in on this area here. Now notice that it's created the weld geometry. And let me just go ahead. I'm going to escape out of the weld tool, right click on some of these other bodies and hide them just so we can more clearly see what's going on here. We'll also hide this other weld geometry. Select this edge, go into plan view. So notice that the weld was created with the shortest distance from the edge to the surface. So instead of going straight down and completely missing it, it's actually creating the geometry where that weld would go at the shortest distance. So again, we can repeat the same thing right here. Switch to that tool guide, double click the edge, select the target face, pick that face, and keep in mind there is a maximum distance. This is more important when you have a lot of surfaces really close together. This is, for searching through the model. And now we've got that weld geometry there. Let's go ahead and just show the mid surfaces again. Let's just show one more region in the back. So this is a nice one because it picks it up automatically and it creates that weld geometry shortest distance right from the edge to the face. One final note is that we've shown here this weld tool working really well with mid surfaces. It can also work with solids and mid surfaces. So if I hide the mid surface component, show solids and shells, and just turn the weld tool back on, we'll go ahead and zoom in here and take a look at some other scenarios. So here we have a scenario of a surface body coming into a solid. We can set it up the same way we did from surface to surface. Use one tool guide for the edges, another tool guide for a face, click the check mark, and now we've got that weld geometry. Same thing going from a solid to a surface. We'll start by selecting the loop of edges, and here I have to double click a couple times to get the right loop, and then we'll use the next tool guide to select a face, and then finally the check mark. And now we have this nice clean weld geometry from a solid to a surface or a surface to a solid. Thanks for watching and have a great day.